Warm welcome to one and all. We welcome all of you to HHC L Style episode number 30. And the topic for today is discovering Northeast with its cuisine and culture. Just to give you a small introduction on HHC, Happy Hotelier Club. Happy Hotelier Club was conceptualized in January 2020 and it's a brainchild of three passionate hoteliers with the purpose of bringing out hoteliers on a common forum for communication and exchange of ideas on industry related issues, new trends, and practices being followed to enhance business and support each other. It's a perfect place for any hotelier to come together, interact, share, and rediscover his own self. May also be useful for sourcing the right vendors. Our vision statement to be the world's first and best platform for hoteliers to provide happier ways of networking, learning, and exchange of ideas. The core team, Ashish Gupta, Dheeraj Agarwal, and myself, Tarandeep. Our advisory board constitutes of Mr. Himmat Anand and Mr. Girish Pindra. They're both hoteliers and have been contributing to the hotelier industry from a number of years now. Just to take you through our past episodes, this is our 30th episode and we've already accomplished 29 episodes since the past 1 year and 3 months on various topics which were of interest and need during the pandemic time. Just for your information, our inner circle memberships are open and we have an incredible pandemic offer which is running right now. So for details, you may call on these numbers. We would request all of you to follow HHC and stay connected. Our Facebook page, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube channel. What will you gain from episode 30, the current episode, which is on discovering Northeast through its cuisine and culture? Many reasons why you should visit the Northeast. What you look out for when you visit Northeast? What makes the region so special and different? What are the places worth seeing? What are the most popular dishes? And we will also learn about the local culture and people. Now, just to introduce you to our esteemed panel today, Krishna Sarma, Samrat X Chaudhary, and Karen Yepthomi. Krishna Sarma, she's the founder and managing partner of corporate law firm, a New Delhi-based law firm that she had set up in 1998. And since then, she's been contributing not just in the legal affairs, but also to the society. In 2019, she co-authored an illustrated history book, Assam, A Journey Through Its Textiles. And in 2016, she had incorporated a public company, Meera Women Weavers Association, to provide an additional source of livelihood to women weavers and at the same time preserve and promote Assamese weaving traditions and designs. Welcome, Karen. We welcome Samrat X Chaudhary. He's an author and a journalist and a former editor of Broadsheet newspaper in Delhi, Mumbai, and Bengaluru. He's also one of the founders of Partition Studies Quarterly, an online journal that focuses on the untold stories of partition in Northeast India. His latest book, The Braided River, A Journey Along the Brahmaputra, was published by Harper's in 2021, and he also was a Cleveland Journalism Fellow at the University of Westminster, London. We welcome Samrat. Karen, she's a native of Nagaland and she has been on her culinary adventures from many years now, and she's explored different cultures and cuisine. And now she runs Zuku Tribal Kitchen in Delhi, influenced by the emerging Northeastern food scene in the capital city of Delhi. She's quickly adopted to the demands of the restaurant to put Naga cuisine on the culinary map of Delhi. Her dream of taking Zuku Travel Kitchen to the global culinary map came into reality when she started her second outlet in Kathmandu in 2017. And we wish her all the best and we welcome her for the discussions today. None but the least, I think, Hoinu, who's a very vibrant lady, and she's the mastermind behind Northeast Odyssey. Just to take you through on Hoinu's profile, she's a seasoned journalist with over 16 years of experience with leading publications. She's focused extensively on travel, hospitality, food, and lifestyle. A recipient of Reuters International News Writing Fellowship, London, she's a certified professional in gastronomic tourism, a Le Cordon Bleu, Paris, and her book, The Essential Northeast Cookbook, published by Penguin, has been instrumental in introducing and popularizing Northeast cuisine and culture. She's also the founder, editor of www.neststories.com, which is a niche digital journal capturing people's story from the region. And she's also the founder of Northeast Odyssey, wherein she brings beautiful stories from Northeast. We welcome Hoinu, and she'll be the moderator for the day today. Over to you, Hoinu.
Thank you, Taran, for the beautiful words of introduction for all of us. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Not many of us are here, but I'm sure for all of you who are here, I just want to ask you, have you all been to the Northeast? I'm sure many of you have been there, have done business at some point of time, or have had associations with the place. So just let me begin with a very reassuring statement that, you know, the Northeast is going to be the most, the next frontier of growth in tourism in the country. And it is home to many pristine products, be it in agriculture, horticulture, or natural resources that are thankfully not yet trampled by mindless development. So this is perhaps the best time to know about the region that has been sadly tucked away from the rest of the country for many reasons. We will, however, not dwell too much on why it has been tucked away far too long, or why there are so many misconceptions about the region, or importantly, why is there so much of, why the lack of information in the region. We will not talk politics, which is inevitable when we talk or when we discuss anything to do with the Northeast. Therefore, that's a topic for another day, for another session, perhaps. Indeed, there is a huge gap of information when it comes to Northeast. So today we will try and attempt to fill in those through these discussions. And when we think of Northeast, many things come to mind. For instance, food, music, organic ingredients, textiles, tea, the mighty Brahmaputra. But there is so much to Northeast and all of this. And if you look at Northeast, the region itself is like a little India itself, like a unity in diversity. There are 8 states, and I'm going to name all of the states for the benefit of many people who still do not know the 8 states. We have Assam, we have Arunachal Pradesh, we have Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, and Sikkim. And all of the 8 states put together, we have about 225. Am I audible? Am I audible, please?
You are audible. Can we request everyone to mute themselves, except the panel and Hoinu? Kindly mute yourself so that there's no voice from the background.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so all of these states, all of these 8 states, tribes, around 220 languages, put the region in a very unique and distinct space when it comes to culture and heritage. The region is also very loosely sometimes termed as the Northeast, but you know, when we just look at Northeast, the 8 states, and each state is very distinct. It comes with its own set of cultures, which are quite different from each other. And another strategic thing about Northeast is its location. We are surrounded by China, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Bhutan. And we are home to many wildlife sanctuaries, which we will discuss in the course of a conversation. and also to talk more about the region Shillong, which is most popular. I'm taking Shillong as an example because it is more known to outside the region. It is called the Scotland of the East. And Manipur, the definition that Jawaharlal Nehru gave as the jewel of India is something that we cling on as a description even to this day. The word potential is something that has been played and toyed around far too long when we refer to the Northeast. So we will, in our discussion today, we will break it down into 3 elements, and we will veer towards culture, cuisine, and place. And it would be very important and pertinent to understand better from 3 people who are in the panel, because a lot of the work represent some part of the Northeast. And I'm going to begin with Samrat because he's a minority here, a gentleman flanked by 3 ladies. So Samrat, you have been a colleague of mine, and you have edited broadsheets. You have really taken your career to a level which everybody would admire. And you recently brought out this book that I'm not able to put down for many reasons. It's called The Braided River. Samrat, I'm going to begin with you because Northeast is important as a tourist destination. And while you did your book, when we spoke today, you said that you meandered through the course of Brahmaputra, from the point of its origin to the final destination, the Bay of Bengal. You also brought alive many historical places like Digboy, which was where the first crude oil was discovered in 1866. You also spoke of a very interesting town called Margarita, which was built by the British in 1884. Would you like to just take us through Digboy and what happened from there on, and what are the scope for tourism in that area? Samrat, over to you. So Taran, the discussion is we will take the best out of Samrat, then we go to Karen and with Krishna. So Samrat, over to you. If you could please take us through, your journeys through Brahmaputra, and also share with us what are the things that we should actually be looking out for in that region. Thank you.
Thanks, Hainu. Thank you for your introduction. Well, so basically, my book and my journey was along the Brahmaputra. I couldn't do, the river basically starts from somewhere near Mount Kailash, which is now in Tibet, and it goes to the Bay of Bengal. I wasn't able to do the whole journey, but I did the bit from the India-China border, the McMahon line, down to a place in Bangladesh where the Brahmaputra and the Ganga finally meet. So there is a great confluence there. In my opinion, the most interesting geographical feature and the most important geographical feature of this entire geography is the Brahmaputra River, after whom the Brahmaputra Valley is named. And in traveling along this entire route, there are so many places of incredible beauty and also of natural interest, and also places of cultural interest. You specifically picked up on Digboy and Margarita. Now, Digboy, of course, is of industrial interest. It's a place related to the oil industry. It's a bit away from the river. I did not spend a lot of time there. I was just passing through. And the reason that I went away from the river to just take a quick look at Digboy and Margarita actually was only indirectly. It was not really about the oil that I went there. What drew me in that direction was something else. It was, first of all, a place called, it was Singpho Food. There's a restaurant there called Singpho Hut, which I really like. And it's a bit of history which is forgotten in many other parts of the country and the world. But there's a road that starts from there, from somewhere near there, called the Lido Road. There's a small place called Lido, from where there's a road which starts, which is alternatively called either the Lido Road or the Stillwell Road. That Stillwell Road was built during World War II. It is a road which connected Lido, which is in Assam, to Kunming in China through Burma. And it was a famous World War II route. And so it was that which actually drew me in that direction. So basically, I went there to enjoy Singpho cuisine, which is beautiful. We're talking about food over here, food and culture. So the Singpho tribe inhabits that area. And, they have the most fantastic cuisine. It's boiled food mostly, and not spiced food like the mainland Indian cuisines. And it's really yummy. I mean, I can't describe it in any other way. And so it was basically for that and for the romance of the Stillwell Road that I went in that direction. There are a lot of things to see in that direction, and it is possible to cross over into Burma as well, which I did on an earlier trip, and to go to a place there near the border on the other side of the Lake of No Return. The real draw of those places, to my mind, is the fact that they're untouched. And of course, mass tourism, I think, will destroy all of those places, but it's possible for adventurous, niche travelers to go and have a great experience in those places.
Does other panel, Krishna, would you like to add something to this, or do you want me to separately ask you to comment on something else?
No, I agree with Samrat.
I mean,
that there's a lot to discover in, and it is an idea of romanticism, of old worldness, and these are like, still not explored. So I think, and I do agree with Samrat on another point, that it has to be conscious tourism, much like, the Bhutan model,
Yes.
rather than like, willy-nilly. You do not want to take away from what makes it so special.
Absolutely, absolutely. Karen, I would like to just come to you. You have been very unwavering in what you're doing, and I know that it's really difficult to sustain something. You've been holding fort since 2014, and not only that, you've expanded and went global, so to say, opened in the most happening place in Kathmandu in Tamil. I happened to be there once, and it was buzzing. People were buzzing and queuing up, outside her restaurant, which is what the food is all about. So tell us, for somebody who worked with some of the top chefs in the country, you've worked with Chef Hemant Oberoi, to name just a few. You've worked with Chef Manjit Gill. Every plate of food that sells in a restaurant, they represent a part of Northeast. Now, how challenging or how difficult it was to sell a flavor that was not really very familiar with the mainland palate, and you have been able to sustain. So does it indicate that we are actually ready to sort of explore this kind of food? We'll be very happy to hear based on your experience.
Thanks, Anu. Well, absolutely every dish that sells at Zuko represents all the culture of Northeast region, like, for example, Iromba, Shinju, which is really famous from Manipur, and Masutenga in Assam. These ingredients, techniques, and dishes are usually associated with a specific culture or geographic region. And if you ask me how exciting my journey has been, and also challenging at the same time, I'm, as a person, very, very independent, and I love to make my own decisions and choices, which puts me in trouble sometimes. But this job allows me to express my creativity and freedom. Plating up food and creating new dishes makes my soul really happy, But yes, at the same time, there are challenges every day that I face, physically and mentally, demanding job it is. Long and unpredictable working hours, like customers' expectation, the staff retention and recruitment, and yes, sustainability. You have your fixed, operation cost, which is include your rent, your licensing fees, the staff salary, so and so, which comes in lakhs. But I think at the end of the day, I love my job. I love what I do, and that's how I'm here today, And, for me, I'm still so, and along the way, I have been so blessed, to have worked with many renowned chefs in the country, and also fortunate enough to collaborate with some, prominent five-star hotels, and pop-up event country like in Singapore, in Thailand, and in Nepal. I believe in using, it doesn't matter which country I am, but I believe in using local seasonal, be it vegetables or meat, it's except your traditional spices, for example, you have your majinga, whatever, those spices has to have with you, wherever that you travel, if you're doing anything with the traditional food, So you create on the foundation of traditional food. So it still has a link with the traditional food, And well, I would say like every cuisine is acquired taste. We are so blessed that our philosophy of food of our continent of India is saying food is regional, Our food is diverse because of local flora, fauna, climate. And the Northeast food is beautifully well balanced. So who wouldn't want to try Northeastern food, And yes, I love cooking. So I would say some of my signature dish would be, a must try would be like smoked pork akoni. Oh, it's like akoni, not akuni. Many people pronounce as akuni, but it's akoni. And the pumpkin cyst chutney is what I feel. I think I really do justice in making this food dishes. Yeah. So this is
Great, thanks.
something like, that I have just my journey a little bit in brief. Yes.
That's interesting. And to do justice, I think we all have to drop into a restaurant.
Please do, anytime.
Yeah. Thank you. Northeast is really throbbing with cultural beats. It is home to many talented musicians. And it is no surprise that, if you give a guitar to a Northeastern, he'll play you a song. But obviously, this is exaggerated. I still don't know how to play guitar. We have over 100 musical bands, and our cultural festivals are something different, deeply rooted in an ethnic foundation, and they're just waiting for audience outside, whether it is the Manipuri drummers who have left an impact traveling around the world, or Tripura's Garias dancers, Bihu dancers, the bamboo dancers, or the Bhutia folk dancers from Sikkim. The cultural richness of the region is something that is waiting to be really explored. And equally important are the indigenous textiles culture. Each ethnic group has its own distinct dynamic set of weaves or traditional garments. And I would like to ask a panel, Krishna, who has co-authored a beautifully illustrated book, which is always on my shelf.
Thank you.
Krishna spent a lot of time putting together this, and it is very intricate because Assam, like a lot of other Northeastern states, it has many, of course, lesser tribes as compared to Northeast, but she was successfully able to detail in the different motifs of the tribes. And Krishna, if you could please take us through your journey, and for somebody who is really busy yet finding time to do something like this, would you take us through the cultural, let's say, pockets of Assam, and also tell us what are the different textile traditions of some of the communities in Assam that could perhaps be used as a very important tourism product for people from outside to see? What in your mind are those? If you could just take us through them. Thank you.
Thank you, Hoinu, for putting this together. And I am very happy to speak about something that's close to my heart. As you mentioned, I'm a corporate lawyer, and I help companies sell more of whatever they make. So this is for me like, the soul food. Working with textiles and, encouraging people to make products that could sell better. And often, I just kind of use my place in Delhi to be the via media for people to send me stuff, from back home, so that more people can see that. So you showed my book. That book is not so much of a coffee table book, but an illustrative history of Assam and the textile traditions of about 13 tribes that I covered. Okay. So when you talk about Assamese textile, for example, you would only think about mainstreaming, a place called Hualkusi. It's about 50 kilometers from Guwahati. That you say that this is like, the Assamese textile. But actually, Assamese textile is so much more diverse that you could actually have a textile trail tourism, across the state. Okay. So amongst the 13 tribes that we covered, the largest is the Boros. They are now, of course, a language on its own under the constitution. And they have and they are the Aborigines, along with the Sintangs and the Khasis. They are the Aborigines of the Northeast and the Brahmaputra Valley. And the Boros have a very rich tradition of weaving, mostly short staple cotton, which very sadly is no longer made, no longer grown. You know, it used to be a specialty in the Northeast. Then they do a lot of work with another silk called eri. The eri silkworm, it feeds on castor. So, and the third, silk that grows, and it's endemic to the Northeast, not just Assam, but also to Meghalaya and to Arunachal, is called the Muga silk. In fact, in 2006, my firm helped Muga get the geographical indication protection. Because the Muga worm, it feeds in two kind of trees called Som and Soalu that is grown particularly in the Brahmaputra Valley, and the climatic conditions, the iron heavy alluvial soil, that helps grow. So that's the reason it got the GI protection. And the tribes knew about this from very long ago. You know, there is history of trade, because thankfully under the British, they used to keep journals of everything. So when Assam became, part of the larger Assam, became part of the British Empire after 1826, in 1850, there is, a custom house near Gwalpara that they kept, like, what is being exported. So the short staple cotton that I'm talking about and the Muga actually got exported. Now, why am I going into all this? I'm going into all this that there is a very special textile tradition, not only of the material, which is very special to the Northeast, but also the different tribes and their design language. I mentioned the Boros because they're the largest, but what I'm wearing is missing. The missing tribe is mostly Western. The Boros I'm talking about is Western Assam, North Bank mostly. And the missing tribe is mostly Eastern Assam, North Bank. And there are many missing also in Arunachal Pradesh. And the missing tribe came down to the Brahmaputra Valley only in the 13th, 14th century. They are actually Arunachali in origin, in the sense that they're Tani tribe, okay? So it's very colorful, as you can see. Even the blouse is Muga. And all this is, dyed with natural colors, turmeric, iron, and whatever is found in the flora fauna. So these are very special traditions. And I find that I went to two places which I really liked. One is, Janavi Fukan's place in Diflu, where she's done this ecotourism. She has looms called the Lahe looms. Similarly, in Tejpur, there was another place that I went to, a tea garden, bungalow turned into a hotel, Ranjit Borthakur's, initiative. There too, they have adopted a village, which is a missing village. And people still do the back looms, the backstrap loom, which they tie around the thing and they can carry it. They can carry near a paddy field. So these are the kind of experiences I'm sure is of great value. And I wish that, something is done around these themes, one being textile because it's close to my heart. One of the things that you mentioned, my, trust that we have opened, the Mira Women Weavers Association, the idea is to do just this. One is to document, while writing the book, the documentation part was very difficult. So documentation is very important. So documenting the old designs, crafting it together in a kind of a museum near the airport. That is something that we want to do. And also, this is an intangible heritage of our people. So how do we get some sort of protection that would get in more funds into it, So with the busy lawyer's life, I cannot see myself not working for the next 10 years, as a lawyer. So I think a more 30,000 feet macro level interventions is something that one can do. And perhaps get more consciousness about the Northeast to the people of the rest of the country. Thanks.
Thank you. Very interesting. The takeaway from here immediately is how can we develop textile circuit in Assam? How can we revisit the tea bungalows? And how can we also experience all the backstrap bloom and all that? So Tarang, I think we already have a few takeaways. Well, in 2010, when Gordon Ramsay, we all know, when he came to India, one of the few places that he landed up in, of all the places, is an island in Assam called Majuli Island. In fact, he was so inspired by the food culture there that 2 recipes from that place features in his book. Now I'm going to go back to Samrat. Samrat, during your research, you have also been to Majuli Island. Could you take us back to the place just to share the kind of cultural, the cultural interest, the cultural experience that people could have? You also spoke when we discussed this morning that you were also quite impressed with the food there. Could you take us to Majuli Island, literally, Samrat?
Well, so I went to Majuli as a traveler, or even perhaps as a tourist. I had not been there before, and it was my one and only trip there. And I was traveling with my friend Akshay Mahajan. We had been traveling down the river, and we went to Majuli from Jorhat. From Nimati Ghat, there was a ferry which took us across to Jorhat, to Majuli. And we stayed there in a bamboo hut. So we were pretty much part of the landscape staying there. And then we would just wander around and, see whatever places we could, and go and eat wherever it was that we found ourselves. One of the experiences which turned out to be memorable, which stuck in the mind and found its way into the book, was we went to this Satra, this Vaishnav place of worship. And they were having a beautiful performance. We were fortunate that we went in there just as they were about to have a performance of song and dance. And so it was a Satriya song Bhavna performance, it's called. And first there was a song where people were dressed in white, were playing the khol. I think I have a picture. I don't know if I'll be able to show it, but anyway, they were playing these drums called the khol. And after that, there was this whole, sequence of dance drama, theater, where they showed a sort of a segment from mythology. That particular segment was on Krishna killing a giant snake. And it was very colorful and very beautiful and very memorable. And I'm sure that a lot of people would find that sort of, experience very attractive. Apart from that, there was also another of the satras, because each of these satras has its own speciality in the arts. There was another satra which sort of whose artistic output stuck in the mind, and that was the satra which specializes in masks. It's called the Samaguri Satra, and they make fantastic masks. Some of them are like a whole bodysuit. So that was also very interesting. So I think Majuli is quite magical. It's untouched. It still was when we went there, but I believe it's changing very rapidly. And it's actually that untouched quality which makes it so special. It's the purity of the place which makes it so special. I think tourism over there, in whatever fashion, small way, it started only after 2000. Before which it was, sort of off the radar of most people. So
I can see if it's wondering.
So yeah. So I mean,
I know it is untouched. It's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Krishna, it's a home turf, and I'm sure you have something to add about Majuli Island.
So Majuli actually.
Krishna, are you there? Yeah.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah. So Majuli is one place that certainly deserves the UNESCO Intangible Heritage protection, because it is a way of life. And, he mentioned Nimati Ghat. Now that area is the braided river that you wrote, Samrat, is kind of going. Every year there is a flood. One chunk kind of goes. Okay. So a lot of very precious material has been lost. And you can't do much on the river island itself in terms of tourism, but certainly from Jorhat or even Kaziranga, which is not far, this could be a circuit. Tejpur, Jorhat, Majuli, Then, of course, you know, the sanctuary is the Kaziranga itself. So, and now with these bridges, it's very easy to cross the Brahmaputra at several places. You know, it's a Kulia bridge has made it very easy to travel between the north and the south bank, made life easier. So yes, so it's a and the Vaishnava cult in Assam, in a way, is a very organic growth. You know, the Chaitanya West Bengal Vaishnava cult jumped Assam and went to Manipur. The Assam one is very organic. You know, so all that Shankar Dev, you know, who lived around 1480s, preached was this, that there's so many ethnic groups in the larger Assam then, that this dharma, it's like a dini ilahi kind, you know, would be the binder, and a binder of all these people. So it was like a culture of its own, a cult of its own.
That's really interesting. Now coming back to food, food is a key part of our culture. It is about our identity, and more so in the Northeast, we are sort of defined by the kind of food that we eat, and we have a rich repertoire of food. And our food of late has been of great attraction for a lot of people. When I mentioned about Gordon Ramsay, who came to India in 2010, I also want to mention the icon of slow food. In fact, the founder of slow food, Carlos Partini, an Italian, when he came to Delhi, when he came to India, he went to Meghalaya, bonded with the people over local food. And when Vikas Khanna was doing his book on festivals of India, he landed up in Mizoram. You know, so that lots of people are slowly being attracted by the food of the Northeast. Now I'm going back to Karen. Karen, you not only serve cook food, you also have some ingredients from back home which you keep. Now, what according to you are the best way for us to be able to leverage fully on, you know, on the wealth of food, whether cooked or uncooked, that we have? How can we market them? How can we brand them and lure them as tourism product for people to sort of, you know, look at them and say that, hey, this is from so and so, you know, use it as a product to sort of introduce the region? How can we do that?
Okay. Absolutely, you know, Hoinu, these days the tourist choose destination cuisine is a big factor. And the food heritage is truly appreciated as a possible, probably engine for rural development and growth of tourism. And Northeast region has a very rich culinary heritage that has evolved over the years. And the scope for, you know, gastronomic tourism in the region is really huge, you know. And I will come back to what you just asked about what we can offer to, you know, the tourism. And but you know, I wanted in between, I want to just come that the food experience, and you know, which can, you know, so that's something. The experience of food is the biggest tools for the tourism. You know, everyone has to eat, right? Every tourist eats about 3 times a day. They spend like 2-3 hours, you know, moving around, and then they're hungry. So making food one of the fundamental economic drivers of tourism. The countries like Ireland, Peru, and Canada are making a significant investment in culinary tourism development and are seeing result with visitor, you know, spending an overnight stays rising a result of food tourism promotion and product development. You know, we should, as a region from the Northeast, you know, we should share our food culture with the world, and the best way to connect is associate with the chefs. Just to share with you, like in 2018, there was World Heritage Summit in Amritsar, organized by IFCA, which is Indian Federation Culinary Association. And there were like chefs from 43 countries, you know, had come and, you know, presenting their culture, presenting their food culture and tradition. And so for me, it's like, you know, today the chefs are the biggest ambassador for gastronomic tourism. We Northeastern are excellent in fermentation. So that's where I wanted to come, which can easily be promoted. You know, fermentation at this moment is the in thing in culinary industry. It considered more healthy and also a great technique. You know, so most of our food are fermented, be it fermented soya bean, fermented bamboo shoot, you know, anishi. Anishi is, you know, basically it's a cake of taro leaves, yeah. And anishi is wonderful thing that ever came out of taro plant, which some people, we call it here in, and probably in Hindi, like RB, yam. In another word in English, it's yam, but then it's actually called taro plant. So almost every plant of taro plant is eatable, and the Nagas make great use of that. So why not we showcase our fermentation techniques, you know, when exposed to people who come to Northeast to see these kind of things also, you know, for relaxation and learning for tourists. You know. Experience live in memory. Yeah, many countries who are known based for their tourism, but now they realize they will not be able to sell their country as a tourism without food culture. You know, tourism, you see, if you notice, tourism, you know, advertisement are all about, you know, are now about food, about the food culture, right? So, but unfortunately, I don't think our region are fully leveraging this opportunity. And I hope our respective states government, you know, will do something soon. And Honu, I'm just so glad that, you know, you are highlighting this topic. We have to do something, if not now, never, you know. So this is something that, you know, we need to, as a, you know, as a northern region, you know, we need to focus on something that which we can highlight, something which are good at, you know, fermentation. Of course, I used all my, you know, fermented soya beans, fermented bamboo shoots are all, they all had to come from Nagaland, you know, because I can't do it here. But then, you know, when you are attracting tourism in the Northeast region, we have everything there. So why not showcase these things that to the tourists?
Absolutely, Karen. In fact, food technique and all that is, Taran, another discussion which we could have it another day. Now, we all know that Dibrugarh is the tea city of India. It is in Assam, and we possibly cannot leave, when we talk of Northeast, we possibly cannot not talk about tea. So Samrat, I'm going to come back to you. Now, again, going back to your book, you spoke at length about, you know, the change of tea industry in Assam. You mentioned that there has been a change. Obviously, things have evolved. Now, could you just take us back to what happened from its glorious days to the not so glorious days of now? And what are the things that have changed and what is left for tourists to see? You mentioned about the tea bungalows and the tea culture. Could you throw some light on that, please?
Well, the history of Assam owes a lot to the tea industry in many ways, and along with that, associated with that, also the movement, you know, the transportation which happened along the river, which happened because of steamers. It's very interesting that the British basically annexed the different parts of the Assam only after they realized that there was tea over there. Because before that, tea was thought to be indigenous only to China. They did not know that there is indigenous tea even in Assam. And then they found out that there is tea indigenously growing in Assam, and that the Singpho tribe, again, have their own tea culture. Once they found out, they got very interested. And then they started coming in and studying it. And, you know, reports were sent, because as Krishna mentioned, you know, they kept excellent records. They had written notes of everything. So you find in the British record that, you know, somebody over there was sending notes saying that there's indigenous tea over here. And they got very interested in that whole region. So there were different kingdoms over there. There was the Ahom kingdom, there was a Motok kingdom, which was towards Tinsukia. The Singphos had their own territories where they were more or less independent. And the British got in and they annexed all of those areas. Because primarily one of the main interests that they had was a commercial interest in tea. they, it was related to China, the Chinese tea industry, and to start a parallel tea industry in a territory which they could control, which turned out to be Assam. And so after that, I'm just getting a little into the history. After that, that led to the annexation, or it contributed, I can't say it led, but it contributed to the annexation of those territories. And it also opened up a place because of the movement of steamers. Because at that time, to go from Calcutta to Upper Assam, Sadia, before the steamer was invented, used to take 4 months. And that is also there in the, in the record. So the first Baptist missionaries, the American Baptists, when they went from Calcutta to Sadia, it took them 4 months. But then steamers came, and so the movement became much faster. From 4 months, it came down to about less than a month. So all of that, then there was the tea industry, which became important over there. And the glory days of the tea industry was actually in the second half of the 19th century, from 1850 to 1900. Because before that, it was a struggle to set it up. They really had to struggle to get things started. And the first companies, the first company which went in there actually did not make a profit for a very long time and almost went bust. And it was finally revived, it survived, but it was a struggle for them. And then after that, in the second half, when they started bringing in labor, the people who are now called the tea tribes, and they got a control of the situation, and then the tea industry had its glory days. There's a lot of history. For me, like, I'm not a specialist, I'm a generalist. But for me, the history of all of that is so fascinating. All these interconnected histories, and of the tea industry especially. Tea it's a global product. There's a global history of tea. It relates to China, it relates to India, and it relates to Britain and the rest of the world. So it was very interesting. Apart from that, there's also a lot more. Now, I mean, it faces competition from other products, and I believe that some of the people, some of the estates there are expanding into welcoming visitors to stay on the tea estates, and to experience the life of the tea bungalows, which is a really they had such a well, I suppose the right word is colonial, but a very grand colonial life, massive bungalows, beautiful also, 24, 25 people working. And, each room is like, I went from Bombay. So when I went there, even going to the bathroom felt like going for a trek, because it was such a big house. So it's incredible. And I'm sure that people will be very interested in having that experience, the grand experience of living on a tea estate and enjoying the good life of the tea estate.
Absolutely. Thank you. Krishna, I'm going to come back to you. Assam being your home turf, I consider you would have something to say. If you could add something here on the tea cultures, and I'm sure you would have plenty to share too.
Yes. So your question was about, what happened to the tea industry and why is it no longer competitive? One of the reasons is that the rupee-ruble Indo-Russian, deal fell through after their perestroika. So that, artificial thing kind of collapsed. And therefore, the newer countries doing the newer teas became a very strong competition. Also, the ownerships are changing. For example, Tatas were almost forced to keep the 24 gardens under a different, amalgamated tea company because they all wanted to exit with labor issues. The labor issues are a real issue. And it's very unfortunate that tea gardens are being sold to, tea gardens are a way of life too, in a sense, okay, for many people. That is changing because the ownership is changing. I don't want to deal with it a lot more. However, I find that there are newer ways of doing things. Samrat mentioned the Singhos. They were the original, discoverers of tea as, you know, a different kind of tea altogether, very endemic to Assam. And the Singphos and one of the Tangsagas, they make a very, it's artisan tea. You know, and it's wonderful. It's flavorful. I have got this 200 grams packets and I've been gifting it to people. They want more. So that young fellow who is making it in Dibrugarh, he's making money, you know, and he's packaging it well. So there are newer ways of selling the tea, which will address a very niche market. Say TWG here makes this very niche packet teas. We can actually make from different areas and different ways. In fact, the Tangsa tea, the Singpho tea is a fermented tea. Smoked tea, fermented tea. You know, and so some research from, say, the regional research, agriculture research organization, or the, you know, the Jorhat Agricultural University, on the aspects of this would actually go a long way in improving the market access for these newer kinds of teas.
Excellent. Thank you for throwing light. Now, in the north,
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
wanted to pitch in, because we are talking about drinks and we are talking about fermented. So I have to make a pitch for my favorite, you know, drink, which is appam, and also all the other kinds of, you know, the variations of that. It's wonderful, and it's really a pity that, you know, that those drinks now, the, like, you know, the Garo Bichi and the
if I interrupt, Samrapang, Appang.
Sorry?
Sorry to interrupt. Appang is a fermented local brew of. You spoke about appong. So appong is actually a
I know you are not audible.
Local drink of natural. Yes, go. Am I
No,
audible now?
Your internet, yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
We do. Appam is a fermented drink. It's a beer, and it's the Missings make it, and that's called appam. But with each tribe, you would have a different name. It's very exciting, and I'm sure if you explore the entire Northeast, each different state would have one drink. And how do you bottle it and keep it? I went to one of this missing, bihus, and I wanted to bring it back because just 2 drinks got me so nicely high.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Now, traditional weaves of the North identity. It is said that you can recognize one tribe from the other by the clothes, by the garment that they wear. Now, I'm going to ask Krishna to tell us the cultural significance of a piece of cloth in Assam called gamosa. You know, something as simple as that, it has a very deep cultural significance, and it's something you would even see in a prime minister, you know, just wear it around the neck. And it's also something that we give as a token of respect to our guests. So Krishna, could you just throw some light on the significance of this very simple yet very, very meaningful little clothes that is called gamosa?
Yeah. So you rightly said that each tribe has a distinctive, way of the dressing, and as well as, the design. I am told that amongst the Nagas, very much like the Scottish clans, you can actually make out each Naga clan by the distinctive stripes of their shawl or the garment they wear. Now, the gamusa is in Assamese, it's nothing but white body. Ga is body, musa is white, okay? So gamusa is supposed to be like, a very ordinary piece of cloth, hand woven. And usually it would have a red border on either side, and it has, of course, most household would use a gamusa. I prefer it. It's so absorbent. The cotton gamusas are so absorbent. I any day prefer it over a towel. So how do you make it more, it's ubiquitous now. You have many national leaders wearing it around the neck. Sunil Dutt used to wear, the Prime Minister now wears. It is used for multiple things, okay? For, our Nam Ghosa, we cover that. When in Bihu, we go to pay respects to our elders, we go with that. I mean, it's an everyday thing, okay? But there's a lot of politics and business behind it now. No longer are gamosas made in Assam, okay? I mean, they are made in Assam, but maximum gamosas come from the south. And the yarn used comes from China. So how do you keep our gamusa, which is hand woven, competitive? Okay, so there is a law that was passed, and that law, unfortunately, there is with the GST coming, it is very difficult to do the gatekeeping. Earlier there was a gatekeeping done on that, but because of the price difference, often you will find that even in government, functions, etc., they use the one that has come from the machine-made ones rather than the little expensive, homegrown one. So there has to be ways and means of, protecting what is made. And it is not just like, a cultural icon. It is also, as you know, in Assam and the Northeast, by the way, that's a very special, characteristic. Our women are the weavers. Unlike many other parts of the country where the men are the weavers, except in Hualkusi, where most of the weavers come from outside, from Bengal, from Orissa, women do it as part of other things. There is farming, there is like, the botanicals, and in addition, they would do it in the afternoon. A good Assamese daughter-in-law would have had to know how to weave at some point. My mother, she was a High Court judge, but when she grew up, she learned how to weave. She could weave. Unfortunately for us girls, we didn't learn. So weaving is part and parcel. It is like, when you look at livelihood and protecting livelihood, the gamusa weaving is part of that protecting livelihood, and it needs more attention than it is getting at this point.
Absolutely interesting. Yeah. Absolutely interesting. In fact, back in those days when people used to look for a girl, one of the most important qualification would she know how to weave, because that was considered a life skill which would see the family through. Taran, are we now ready to open the house for questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, it was very, very engrossing, the entire conversation, because so much so that, I and Hoinu have been talking about Northeast because I specifically love Northeast, and I've traveled to some states of Northeast. But what Krishna was talking about, that smoky tea, and Samrat was talking about those bungalow stays, I am
Yes.
really, really getting greedy. And I'm also getting a little, I would say, kick, because I would really want HHC members and HHC community to organize a trip, when the times are better and we are a bit out of COVID, to travel towards that part of India and stay in the bungalows and experience the tea tasting sessions and all that. Because I think that will really open up, and I'm really in for it. So probably with Hoinu and Samrat and Krishna and Karen, I think we can beautifully curate it with cuisine, culture, and food.
Absolutely, that's taken for granted that we would do it, considered done.
Yes, so we should. So now I would request our guests who are there, who've been investing time with us in this room from past 1 hour, to kindly unmute and ask questions. You really have to get them. For Karen, where is your restaurant located? So probably you can put the address in the chat, because people are interested to visit your restaurant and experience the food. So,
So we'll do that. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. So we would request everyone to unmute in case there are questions to just ask the panel directly. Ashish, if you could spot any question, you may also pitch in, please.
तुमको Kereno restaurant जाएंगे address
Darren, while people are waiting to ask their questions, I think it is also important to sort of, understand what are the changes that have taken place in the region. Do you think we can take in one more little subject?
Yeah, we can
on that?
just have one question.
Yeah. You know, things have changed in the Northeast, and I mean, I'm going back and again to Samrat, because the book that he has just brought out is very timely and it's well documented. It talks of what Northeast is. He spoke of the influx of new money in the region that has changed the pace and orientation of life in the Northeast, which is true. In Assam, for instance, he wrote that it has started changing the people's relationship with the river. So I want to understand from him, Samrat, what are the things that have changed culturally? Though I would still believe that a large part of what we are culturally remain untouched, and they are still there for people to see. So could you throw some light on that, Samrat?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the culture is very much there, but culture is never static. So it's always evolving. And so, you know, the relation with money, the relationship with of culture with the coming in of money is also very interesting. I spoke earlier about how the tea industry may have, you know, contributed to the annexation of the whole of Northeast India to the British Indian Empire, and how the connection of you know, the need to take the tea out improved the connection. So that process, you know, the process of Northeast India entering the global commerce, the world of global commerce is still going on, and it's accelerating. So what we see now, we are becoming a part of the globalized world. So, you know, so basically what we are seeing now, I don't know, somebody saying something, so I'm getting a little distracted.
Would request everyone to mute themselves. Neeraj, can you just mute everybody except the speakers?
Yeah, so basically it's that, you know, that this is an ongoing process, and it's going on even now. And now, of course, we all wear the same kinds of clothes, more or less. We are a part of the globalized world. So the problem now is to, you know, sort of retain the indigenous culture and not get completely washed away with this globalization. What Krishna said, which I didn't know, was fascinating. I didn't know that the gamosa is actually now coming in from China. I mean, that's quite incredible. So that is a part of that, you know, that process of globalization that we are talking about.
Absolutely, that's interesting. Karen, Krishna, Samrat, thank you so much for the time. Now we are open to answer any questions if there are any.
So whoever has no question in mind, kindly unmute and ask. Or it can be you know, which you like.
Hi. Okay, I'm Meghali Das from Guwahati. Hi, Krishna. Good to see you here, and thank you for inviting me.
Hi, Meghali.
Hi. I'm working at a really grassroots level. I work with 21 weavers, especially women, and mainly Boros. Okay, now there's a big challenge over here. What's happening is Guwahati is flooded with mekhela sadar from Surat. And these are machine made, and mine is handloom. and I have a boutique known as Handloom Hues. So if you go into Facebook, you'll see there are thousands of designs which are maybe copied from my designs, and they make it in a bulk and sell it at a discounted price. So is there any way of stopping that? I mean, this is a real big hurdle for all the weavers in the Northeast. I think it'll happen to other states also. So like the Gamusa has been taken over by the South, like Krishna says, even Mekhla Sador is taken over by Surat and Kuch Bihar. There are a whole lot of people who are known as resellers. They give you at a very good discount and a very, very inferior quality fabric. So how do we stop this menace? If somebody can help me with this.
Megani, can I answer that question? Because I head the Fashion Design Council across 17 countries. So
I can't hear properly. I can't hear properly.
I'm just going to write my name down in the chat. Do reach out to me. I think I can help you with this.
We can't, the voice is not audible.
No, audio is not good. I can't hear.
So Meghali, if I can just add here, this is happening in every state. So if you actually pick up Kashmir, you pick up Punjab, you have weavers there, For example, in Punjab, you have a very famous embroidery called Fulkari. In
That's
up
right.
north, in Kashmir, you have something which is very special, which they're doing, with hand. So, people who are copying and doing a machine thing, you can't really control. But then buyers, buyers have an eye for detail. So, it depends on how the buyers would go for it. Would they go for a machine-made stuff, which is not that, it doesn't look authentic as well. So it all depends on what you are targeting at. And the real buyer will actually go with the weavers-driven, product only. For example, I would never buy any product which does not have threads coming out from the backside. So because that is a true weaver's work. So your buyers would really understand what you're doing. So there it lies a difference. But really speaking, you can't really control what people are doing. It's sort of an industry. This is my take, and probably anybody can contribute and put their views.
Thank you, Tarun.
Not completely related, but Mizoram is the only state that I know of that does not allow the traditional clothes to be mass produced in a mill. They still do the weaving, and it's legally not allowed in Mizoram, which is a big stand that I think that the government has taken, the state government.
I wish we could also do it in Assam. Maybe Krishna can help.
Yeah, I was about to say, Meghani, that
Absolutely.
we can do that offline and talk about this, okay?
Okay, yes, we'll do that.
And I also
Thank
sent you Sania Kripalini's, email ID, okay, Meghali? She has
Yes,
some
thank
emails.
you.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
So Dr. Anand Singh is there in the, as audience today, and he's HHC member as well. And he's the principal for IHM Bhopal. He's very, very awed by the entire discussion today, and he would really want that the students should also get this kind of panel and discussion so that they learn a lot. So Dr. Anand, would you like to unmute and just share your feel on this?
Yes, Tarandeep, it has been a wonderful session. It's our culture, it's our heritage. It's wonderful. What I wanted that how our student can get the exposure to this culture of Northeast. So they are aware, they are young. Even we can plan some visits to Northeast. So to begin with, we want to organize maybe on cuisine culture, and then heritage and the handicrafts. These kind of webinar, if we can organize to our students, I think it will be a wonderful exposure to our students, even to other people also. I mean, our faculty fraternity. So how can we go ahead with it?
So Dr. Anand Singh, I'm sure Hoinu can partner with us on this, and this vertical which we have for students, HSC Future, probably in that also we can create some interesting sessions going forward, So we can definitely take your advice, and we can just create those as a marketing calendar for that vertical.
Yes,
Where
that
we are
will be very
tapping,
nice.
yeah, where we are targeting students, and then parents can also join in, and then overall anybody can join, but then we can just target it for them specifically, because these knowledge related webinars are really important, and I've been wanting to do it from such a long time, and finally Hoino gave me a green signal. So she's an expert on Northeast Odyssey, and that's how she's been able to get all the experts in. And for me, she's a representative of Northeast. I've always looked at her as a representative. So for Northeast, we can really build communication and knowledge webinars, going forward. Because there's
It
so
will
much,
really be great.
yeah,
It will really
there's
be
so
great.
much to that place, apart from the beauty and the beautiful girls and boys and smart looking people. There's so much more, which people should know.
And this is just a concise version of, 3 things just packed in together.
Yeah,
For a
in
very,
1
very,
hour.
yeah. I mean, there's so much more, just the tip of the iceberg. And Dr. Anand, as Taran said, will be very happy to sort of capsule it for you, a model, which will be for your students. We'll be very happy to replicate even this discussion if you think it would be relevant.
Yes, it will definitely, because it is really
Yeah.
to be mesmerizing, because we need to expose this young generation.
Yeah.
What is Hindustan? So
Yeah.
it's important.
And also even the flow of today's discussion, I did not want the same question going round, just mindlessly. I
Yes.
made sure that 3 of them bring in, the best that they are in. So I wanted to take the best from the 3 of them in this
Truly
very
amazing,
limited
everyone.
time. Yeah.
Truly
Yeah.
amazing, everyone. Thank you so much for your time and getting us here. Thank you, Tarandeep.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, any more questions before we, bid goodbye?
I see the
to
lots
everyone?
of questions in the chat, which of course, if you have their email IDs, all of us will be happy to put together and give them, relevant answers.
Yeah.
It may
so
not be here, but we could help them offline, whatever queries they want.
Sure. So we will
Yeah.
be anyways recording and saving these chats, which
Yeah.
can be shared, and
Yeah.
we can answer them. So, so do we take the, permission to close the session for today? And more to
Yes.
follow? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you for everybody's presence and investment of time with us at HHC. Thank you, Hoinu, for putting it together so beautifully well. And we look forward to more such sessions. I think it's going to be very powerful. I mean, this is the first time I've seen such powerful chats, comments in the chat box. So I'm really, really delighted, to bring it together. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Samrat.
Thank you.
Karen, please
Thank you
mention
very
your
much.
address of the restaurant, because one of our members want to really have a visit there.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
kitchen.
Thank you.
Thank you.